Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So this morning I was on YouTube and I saw Chrissy's video. And I like Chrissy's videos for the most part. I like her voice, I like her videos and stuff like that because she talks about issues that are important to Black women and dark women in particular, dark skinned women in particular. And I think that that's very important. And we hear that voice, we hear about those important issues affecting Black women and dark skinned women in particular. So I agree with some of her content. As with most YouTubers, I don't agree with everything she says. I mean, there are points of disagreements. And this video right here highlights one of those points of disagreement. So she did a video where she was talking about the Bachelorette, and she was basically talking about why she supports the show. And this is what she said. She said, I like the show for its desirability promotion for Black women. And then she went on to talk about how it's a good counter promotion to all this black male interracial relationship propaganda that's out here in the white media. So she sees this as a counter message, a message that counterbalances this media message that promotes interracial relationships between Black men and non Black women. And she went on to say, like, that she thinks that a lot of Black women and girls need to see the show. And she went on to say how Black men are not doing anything to counter anything in the media. And that's part of the reason why, she supports this show until Black men do something to counter these messages about interracial relationships with Black men and non Black women. Then until that point, she's going to enjoy this show and she thinks that this is a good countermeasure and et cetera, et cetera. So this is what I have to say to this. I mean, first of all, more messaging promoting interracial relationships doesn't address the problem. It merely adds to the problem. Adding more messaging supporting interracial relationships doesn't help anything. All it does is further erode the Black family, Black relationships, and it further exacerbates this problem of colorism in the Black community. This whole situation where you have these biracial women and light women being promoted as some kind of beauty standard over dark skinned women. And I think that you understand this because, from what I understand, you had a dispute with another YouTuber about that very issue. But then at the same time, here you are promoting, interracial relationships and stuff like that. It seems like, I mean, what we have is really like a double standard. And we see this a lot where you'll have Black women, for instance, hostile to Black men dating outside of the race. But when it comes to Black women dating outside of the race, all of a sudden it's something to be celebrated. All of a sudden it's something to be encouraged. All of it is something to empower Black women, to validate Black women, to give them self-esteem and all that other stuff. But when it comes to the Black men doing so, it's a big problem, it's a big issue. And and you also see the reverse as well. You see Black men that will speak about interracial relationships when it comes to Black women with non-Black men. I mean, some of these people criticize that situation when it comes to Black women dating outside of the race and marrying outside of the race, but they have no problem with Black men doing that. They have no problem with interracial relationships when it comes to Black men. And it's hypocrisy on both sides. I mean, one example is this. I mean, you got this guy on YouTube, this David Carroll guy, who's doing all these endless videos criticizing these Black women for swirling and all that kind of stuff. But yet, this is the same man who a few years ago was encouraging men, if they wanted to get married, they need to get married to a white woman or some other non-Black woman. But yet this man has the audacity to get on here and do all these endless videos criticizing women who swirl. I mean, it's blatant hypocrisy. And you had a saying with Tariq Nasheed, for instance, a man who has all this stuff to say, calling all these women bedwench this, bedwench that. But this man is on record basically having no objection to black men dating outside of the race as long as they get those white women to serve as like double agents against white supremacy. I mean, you got this guy making all these favorable remarks about white women being better mothers and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, there is a problem of hypocrisy on both sides, and I think that this is a prime example of it. I mean, I think that what you're saying in terms of supporting the show is an example of it. And as I heard your video, you talking about how this is something that a lot of black women and girls need to see. The first thing I thought about was this. I mean, I wondered if black women are truly that desperate for validation, that desperate for attention, that desperate for positive reinforcement that they will accept it from anyone and anything, even from a fake so-called reality show, a show that you acknowledge may be fake, a show that you acknowledge may not be helpful to black families and the pro-black agenda, but yet you endorse it, despite knowing that it's a complete farce. I mean, here you are saying that black women and girls need to see something, see this program, which is making a complete fool out of black women and black men. I mean, here you have a woman who is parading around, making a complete fool out of herself, kissing dozens of guys, hugging and engaging in intimate type of behavior with dozens of guys, literally jumping on these guys, jumping on them, running up to them, jumping up on them, with her legs spread wide open, wrapped in her legs around their waist. Multiple men. And that's supposed to be the example that a lot of women should look up to and that a lot of black women and girls need to see. An example of a woman who on one episode voted off the vast majority of the black men and leaving only one black man behind. That's the example that black women and girls need to look up to be inspired by. Are we that desperate for our women to give validation that we would cling on to a show that's a fantasy, cling on to a show that's a complete joke, cling on to a show that disrespects the black family and black relationships, that places a premium on whiteness, where you have this woman voting off most of the black guys, where you have this woman sleeping with this one black guy and then talking about how she's falling in love with these white guys. I mean, what man in their right mind would marry someone or propose to someone who just slept with another guy? I mean, is that really the example that we want our black women and girls to follow after? I mean, someone that's supposed to be educated, someone that's supposed to be, have it all together, someone that's fairly good looking, someone who shouldn't have any kind of problem finding a man. But yet she's on one reality show, first that Bachelor show, talking about she loves this guy, Nick, gets dumped by him basically. And now she's on another show, hugging and kissing all these guys, going on all these multiple dates and this and that. That's the example that you want for black women? I mean, what happened to good examples for black women? Like the Cosby Show at its height, when you had Claire Huxtable, a lawyer. You had the Dr. Huxtable and Claire Huxtable. I mean, she was a lawyer on that show in a solid, strong family, married, had a strong, solid, middle-class family. And then even if you take it to Good Times, where you had a solid family structure, and you compare that to today, where you have reality shows that show black men and black women as dysfunctional and not able to be in relationships, and yet on the other side they glorify these interracial relationships, make it seem as if black people are only happy in relationships when they are involved in relationships with non-black people. That's what a lot of black women and girls need to see. They need to see a black woman looking up to these white men, idolizing these white men. That's what they need to see. And I think this whole thing about black men not doing anything to counter anything in the media and all that kind of stuff, I really just think that that's a lame excuse to justify this buffoonery. I mean, I would use other language, but I'm going to chill. But it's just a lame excuse to justify what these women already desire, and that's to be with this damn white man. That's what it boils down to. I mean, they come up with these lame excuses about black men not being builders and blah, blah, blah to justify running off with their former slave master. And, I just think that it's a lame excuse, man, at the end of the day. I mean, at least these swirlers are honest in terms of their intentions. They admit that they love this white man and all this and that. They don't pretend that it's about, for the most part, like most of them just admit that that's what they do. I mean, for the most part. It's one thing when you come up with these lame excuses like the black man is not a builder. Even during slavery, you had black women that were marrying black men through underground type of practices where they would have jumping the broom. Even during that oppression, when the black man had nothing, you had black women who were loyal to the black man. Even during the height of segregation, when black people didn't have the levels of education and didn't have the levels of resources that we have today, you still had black women who were loyal and down with the black man. But today you have black women. They get a little bit of knowledge, they get a little bit of education, and then they turn around and they look down upon the black man and they criticize the black man for not being able to build when they don't look at the damn system that is holding down the black man. So, I just think it's a lame excuse, and I think it's a disgrace that people are encouraging black women to watch this buffoonery and coonery and get inspired. I mean, I think that it's a shame that the situation has gotten so bad that some of our women feel the need to cling on to any kind of validation that they can get. Any kind of validation. In particular, validation that comes from non-black people. The same non-black people that taught black people to hate dark skin, to hate our natural features. These are the people that you're looking to for validation. These are the people that you have a lot of black women flocking to because, for instance, a white boy is saying that he loves chocolate girls and all this nonsense. Or some other non-black man saying something like that. You had these women running to them, seeking validation. It's a shame. And I know that black men need to do more. I mean, I know that there's an issue of misogyny here on YouTube. But come on, you can't tell me it's so bad, it's so horrible that we got to run to the white media for validation. A white media that is promoting um, the image that black families are dysfunctional, promoting the image that interracial relationships are the answer to the problems that black men and women face in relationships. I think that we're better than that. So those are my thoughts. Tell me what y'all think. Please rate, comment, and subscribe.